Good evening and welcome to. What was that sound?
That was me.
I don't know. Y'all's mics, for whatever reason, just unmuted right before the thing. Whatever.
All right, false start. Good evening and welcome to Everything Vaguely Paranormal. My name is Ryan Roberts, and these are my partners in the paranormal, Mr. Blake Smith and Miss Shelley Pruitt. How are you guys doing?
Oh, I feel like we are in for it tonight, especially if we're starting off with this. I'm excited about this topic.
Oh, we're going to talk about dirty ghosts.
We are.
Nervous for the live viewers.
Commenters.
Right.
Our
Our
commenters.
I cannot wait. I'm going to tell you right now, commenters, Blake's on comments. Do your worst. I want to go back and read this and be thoroughly entertained because these are ghosts doing dirty things.
They are. They're doing very dirty things. And, you know, the last time I had a topic, we talked about some really horrible crap.
Yeah,
and I was looking for... Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, Brian.
You know, hey, true crime cases are rough. That's just the nature of true crime. But
Sure.
I started looking for something else to do for my next topic. And I was like, man, the last thing was pretty damn gloomy and pretty awful. So I started looking around in all the books that I had. And I found a book that... you know, I had to pull some stories from. It is actually called Sexual Hauntings Throughout the Ages.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
You would find these goddamn books, man.
Hey, man, dude, I've run out of some fucking space. I have so much books in my closet right now. I don't have anywhere to put them. So I dug deep and was looking around and I found this book that I picked up a long time ago. I actually forgot that I had it. So I started reading it and I found some of these stories and I was like, I couldn't resist. I had to pull some of these stories because Jesus Christ, y'all, some of this
sexual hauntings. Yes. I am intrigued.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, it was just said in the comments, sex and ghosts, my two favorite things.
Mine too.
Well, are y'all ready to get into this?
Oh my God, I can't wait.
I mean, you know, okay, so before we jump into this, because I have a feeling
all this foreplay's getting on my nerves. Let's go.
You're ready to just rock to it. A few of us actually have a few how do we put it? Close encounters. With a spectral friend.
Yeah.
Ass cuppage. That's all I'm gonna say.
Ass cuppage and you know, in the body cooler at the Lore Psychiatric Museum.
Trying to get climb on top up. Yeah.
We got asked if we were going to come and do certain things to certain ghosts at Old Park Hotel one night, you know. So
I believe I was told to do something too.
Yes, you were.
Yes, you were. You were told to do some very dirty things.
Very dirty things. Very dirty things. And at Old Park, I told to do some very dirty things.
You got your butt pinched at Old Park.
Well, we'll also talk about the thing from Scare Network TV of whenever I was leading you guys for them of what they saw go up into my room. So let's talk about this, Ryan. I'm ready. I think we're going to be able to relate to this one.
All right. So I've got about 5. I think it's either 4 or 5 stories that we're going to talk about tonight. And
it's sad that we can relate to it.
Yeah.
You leave me alone. We don't kink shame.
No, and when you have this group somewhere, you know some crazy shit's bound to happen. So, but we're gonna go ahead and jump into these stories, and we'll stop after each story and discuss because I want to hear what you guys have to say about this sort of stuff. So, the first story is about a guy that gets kind of assaulted in a rectory. So
in the where?
In a rectory.
Oh, in a rectory?
not in the rectum, in a rectory.
Oh God, we're gonna be 5-year-olds through this whole freaking episode. I just know it. I just know we're gonna be freaking 5-year-olds through this whole thing.
I'm deaf, and I wanted to make sure I heard you correctly.
Yes, in a rectory, not what you were thinking. So
okay.
All right. So Rattled Rectory in Suffolk, England, was known as an extremely haunted building. Already?
Where is it? One more time. What's the name of the joint?
Suffolk, England.
No.
What is the name of the place?
Rattled Rectory.
The Rattled Rectory. That is not by accident. Okay, go ahead.
Rectory.
In the Rattled Rectory. We're never going to make it to this episode.
Was known as an extremely haunted building. And in 1908, the landlord was a young carpenter. He had to go to the rectory one evening and repair a few rotten floorboards and several panels that needed replacing. Once he got in there, he began to work on the pantry. And as he worked, he became rather uneasy and began smelling an extremely musty and unpleasant smell. Shelley's last date. He didn't really think too much of the smell at first because the building was old and full of rats. But as he continued to work, the smell became worse and worse. And he got the feeling that he was being watched. Suddenly, the atmosphere became extremely heavy, and his eyes darted around the room. But they seemed continuously drawn to the pantry door that was halfway open and an area where he had thrown a dust sheet over earlier in the day. However, every time he looked over, he expected to see someone staring right back at him. But for the time being, he was safe and continued to work. What is killing you? Are you good over there?
Carry on with your fabulous
I think she's still stuck on the rattled den rectory.
No, I'm laughing about my last date. It's just so spot on.
But then he began to
Musty just got me.
I don't know if Shelley's gonna make it through this.
I muted her mic. Go for it.
But so he continued to work, but then he began to hear rustling and rattling coming from inside the pantry. Once again, he blamed the noise on the rats running around in the old building. But then his worst nightmares came true. Suddenly, 2 hands appeared from out of the dark pantry and snagged the dust sheet, pulling it into the inky black darkness. Suddenly, the pantry door burst open and the dust cover flew through the air, coming towards the young carpenter in a jerking motion. But on top of the dust sheet, the carpenter noticed a head resting directly on top, like it was pinned to the sheet. And as it approached, he noticed the head was deformed and resembled a rotten apple. It had no visible eyes or ears, but it did have a mouth, and hanging from that mouth was a big blue tongue. Thinking quickly, the carpenter grabbed a nearby hammer and yelled, "Stop buggering about!" But the ghoul continued advancing, backing the terrified carpenter into the corner. Once his back was against the wall, the ghoul threw off the dust sheet, revealing itself to be a rotting corpse with brown, blotchy skin. The horrible thing reached out and began to grope the poor carpenter. It then put its face right next to his and seemingly tried to go in for a kiss. But that's the last thing the carpenter remembered. He passed out from the fear, and when he came to hours later in the pitch black room, but now his assailant was gone. He quickly packed his things and burned the road up, putting as much distance between him and the rectory as possible. Later, as the young carpenter got older, he told the story to anyone who would listen. But in 1941, a ghost hunter named Robert Thurston Hopkins decided he was going to take a deeper look into the story and determine just what that entity was. But much to his chagrin, the original building was demolished in 1892, and a new building was built on the property. But the vicar that lived in that building had the writings from a previous priest that once resided in the rectory. And in them, the priest described the haunted pantry, which he claimed had a coffin-shaped tile pattern in the floor. And strangely enough, when the rectory was torn down, the construction crew busted up the tiles and revealed there was actually a coffin underneath.
Oh, shit.
With a decaying body inside that belonged to Robert Bumstead, who had died in 1780 and was buried under the rectory.
Oh my God, Ryan, where do you get these fucking stories, man, with these goddamn names?
I told you, man, it's this book, dude.
Rattlesden Rectory.
And Robert Bumstead.
I
shouldn't have even bothered putting on makeup. I'm going to laugh so hard I cried all off.
God.
Who had died in 1780 and was buried under the rectory to avoid debtors. Could he have been the marauding frisky spirit that tried to kiss the carpenter? We may never know. But the dastardly fiend continued to roam the land until a local priest performed an exorcism years later, banishing it back to where it came.
Fantasy back to the rectory.
Yeah, back to the rectory.
Okay. Oh, yes.
What do you think of that one?
We just had a lot of people jump in as well. If you're joining us, buckle up. Buckle up. That was the first story.
That was the first story, and that was probably the most, like, you know,
we're talking about ghosties that do naughty things to people.
Yeah,
naughty ghost, spectrophilia, yes.
So what do you think
and
of
if you just jumped on, make sure you go back later and watch the first of this.
Like the first 10 minutes. Shelly can't breathe. We lose her for
this
about
is just
5
the
minutes.
foreplay. We're going to get to the good stuff here in a minute.
Yes.
Oh, God. Okay.
I don't know what to make of. I mean, I don't know what to make of this. It's kind of like, so he's buried underneath the pantry floor to escape debtors, you said.
To escape debtors, yeah. I don't know why he comes out and tries to kiss the carpenter. I don't know what the deal was with that.
But if he's already dead, hadn't he escaped his debtors already?
Yeah, but that's why he was. Yeah, that is.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good
Sorry.
point.
I was listening to the story, even though I was laughing uncontrollably.
I don't know if maybe there's like some, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, that is weird. Why is he doing it to escape debtors? I didn't think about that when I was reading this story. You're right.
Unless he made that his hiding place and he died there.
He could have done that, and they could have just buried him. So I don't know if maybe, I wonder if there's like a thing where like maybe you can't be buried certain places if you owe money to somebody or something back then. And I mean, in England, I don't know, they have different laws than we do. So I don't know. That one's a little interesting.
It's a good point. Good point in the comments. Possibly to avoid having his grave robbed.
Oh, that could be it too. Yeah,
because they wouldn't have been able to dig up his grave if he was buried underneath the rectory.
But if he's a debtor, he probably doesn't have anything to be buried with.
I'm more concerned about why this grotesque figure is trying to make out and grope on this poor carpenter.
Right.
So the only thing that I can think of is if you're buried underneath a rectory.
Mm-hmm.
Sentences I never thought I would say, but if you're buried underneath the rectory, I would feel like you would have some type of connection to the place, obviously. So maybe he was repressed in some way and felt more freedom in the afterlife.
Could be, yeah.
Came back just to pursue that somewhat of an unfinished business.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very weird unfinished business to have.
Yeah. He just saw that young carpenter in there working and was like, "Come here, give me a smooch."
Hey, we don't kink shame, even if it's a ghost. You leave that ghost alone.
No, not at all.
No kink shame at all. I mean, yeah, we support it. Go for it.
I don't know. I would, if I was, first of all, I'm going to call bullshit on this story, but anyway, I think that if it was, I really am.
Right.
But if it were to have actually happened, then I think that probably maybe it could have been just an effort to scare this person who was disturbing the gravesite away because he had been hidden and he didn't want to be found.
I mean, you're scary enough looking like a rotten apple with blotchy brown skin coming at somebody in the dark. I don't think you got to try to kiss them to scare them away.
I don't know. I go off of things that we've had happen in our investigation, especially like at Old Park. Let's take Old Park. You know, whenever we kind of test the spirits, you know, so to speak, by trying to set them up with like different dates for the night. One of them being me as bait, you know, and trying to get the men to take the male spirits to take the bait on that, just to see if there's any type of different interaction there. I don't know. The first thing I get pulled to is I'm like, maybe this individual, which I also am going to call bullshit on this story.
Sorry,
but it makes a great topic, you know, for conversation. If this person was repressed in life and is more free in death, then they're going to they'll be able to act on it, you know, in death. Because as you were in life, so you are in death. So if this person was like that in life, you know, bisexual, homosexual, gay, whatever, you know, maybe that's what he's acting up on.
Maybe
in death. I don't know. This poor carpenter, though, man. I just want to be like, been there, my friend, been there. Not with the grotesque, blotchy, brown, dented apple face, you know, spirit, but yeah.
Could it perhaps have been the carpenter realizing that he couldn't do the job and making up a story in order to be out? It's like, I can't go back there. This happened to me. And that way, therefore, he doesn't have to do the job. Perhaps he didn't have the skill set, or perhaps the money wasn't right after he got done negotiating and he just didn't, but he'd agreed to do it. So now he had a legitimate out.
Could be. And, you know, you were talking about using us as bait, Blake, in some of these locations where there are ghosts that are kind of sexual in nature. But the thing is like, spirits are one thing, but whatever this is, like some sort of cadaver crawling out of the grave, like where the
my last date, right?
Yeah. Like, how did it get out of the grave and get out of the tile section where it was supposed to be buried underneath and get back in without disturbing the tile? That's what's kind of weird about this story too. Like, maybe that's I'm gonna throw bullshit on this too.
You
but
use the word ghoul. Ghoul, which to me it denotes an entity that's just a bit different. Than a spirit. In my opinion, it's still a spirit. It's just a spirit who has a more, I don't know,
hellish appearance.
Or kind of haunting appearance to it. So, I mean, I think that might be why it would have been undisturbed. Obviously, it's because it's a spirit. But I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna have to say this one's totally fucking made up, man.
I'm gonna call
this one's totally fucking made up.
Right.
But
I think the carpenter needed an out. For whatever reason.
That is probably the most likely scenario. He probably could not or would not finish the job.
Right. And he said, like, and it also said too in the story that he loved to tell this story to people. So it's a good story to have in your pocket to be like, hey, I got kissed by a ghost one time, you know, in the middle of the rectory.
He couldn't do it because of his erectory dysfunction.
No, don't you boo that one. That one's great.
Damn it.
His erectory dysfunction. That's a good one.
I like that one too. Keep them coming, commenters. I'd love to go back and read them.
Never gonna make it through tonight. Jesus. Oh my God. All right. So bullshit on the first one.
All right. Let's go to the next one.
So that was the foreplay. We're kind of starting to get into the meat of the matter.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
okay.
Let's get into the heavy petting part of the show.
All right. So this next story is about a rather debaucherous club and a guy who may have taken a trip to hell. So,
I already like where this is going.
Did you see my boyfriend there?
What, the cadaver that came out of the grave?
No, see Satan. If he's going to hell, did you see my boyfriend?
He might have seen your boyfriend. I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay.
So in the 1700s, there was a debaucherous club in Glasgow known as the Hell Club. It was a club consisting of Scotland's upper crust, where they could get together and let off steam and engage in acts of drunken debaucherousness and sexual bliss. The leader of the Glasgow Club was a very well-to-do man named Archibald. Now, Archibald and his club would meet weekly, party their faces off, and have sex till dawn. But every New Year's, they would have a big Saturnalia party, where things got really out of control. Archibald would love these parties so much and had a phrase he would repeat at every party. When he was mid-coitus with a buxom young woman from town, at the top of his lungs he would yell, "I want to fucking hell." He said this so often.
Whoa! In the middle of it, he would
he would scream, "I want to fucking hell. I want to fucking hell." He would scream that at the top of his lungs.
And I'm sure the lovely young lady was like, apparently we are right now. I'm in hell right now.
And again, with the fucking names, Archibald.
Mm-hmm.
There's never like a Jack or a Ron or somebody.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, he said this so often that it kind of became his thing. And people expected him to say it, applauding and cheering whenever he did. And after one particularly crazy Saturnalia party, it came time for the group to meet again. But to the surprise of everyone there was no Archibald, which was strange to all of the other members, because Archibald never missed a party. And he would never miss his chance to scream his famous catchphrase in front of all of his adoring public.
And what was that phrase again?
I want to fucking hell.
All right. Just making sure I understood.
But in his place was a handwritten note from Archibald saying he was resigning his post and he would no longer be attending Hell Club gatherings. His friends were bummed, but the festivities raged on. They're like, he ain't here, but I'm still fucking. I don't give a shit. However, Archibald was summoned to the next meeting, and his friends wanted an explanation as to why he quit. Archibald didn't want to tell them. He seemed genuinely spooked, but after a few drinks and some ribbing, Archibald opened up, and he told the club exactly why he quit. Archibald had gotten quite drunk at the Saturnalia party, and was on his way home late that night. As his private coach rolled down the back roads to get him home, it suddenly stopped. And when Archibald looked to see why the coach had stopped, he saw a big black apparition in the middle of the path blocking his way home. Archibald asked who he was and what the meaning of stopping his coach was. The figure replied, "You are interested in matters of the flesh. You wish to fucking hell, and I am here to help you realize your ambition."
Oh my God. Score! Archie for the win. Hey.
He's like, all right. As the figure relayed its message, Archibald's horse reared up and threw him to the ground.
This is obviously not a spirit that was shown in A Christmas Carol.
No. Knocking Archibald completely unconscious. Immediately, his spirit left his body, and he saw his body laying in a pile of wet leaves next to the road. Initially, he started to freak out, knowing he was dead. But the black-clad figure told him not to worry. He would be allowed to come back. But for the time being, Archibald needed to follow him. Archibald began to follow and asked where they were going. The figure turned around and responded, "To hell." Archibald followed, and the road turned into a tunnel of pure darkness that led to a giant wooden door. The figure rapped on the wooden door, and bolts clanked as the door slowly opened. The strange guide turned to Archibald and said, "This is hell, and this is the hell you have always wanted to visit." Archibald entered the room, and he was quite surprised. There was no lake of fire, no suffering or gnashing of teeth. Instead was a giant drunken party, where everyone and everything was having sex. Archibald even recognized one of the participants as a former member of the Hell Club who had been dead for quite some time. Her name was Miss D, and Archibald asked her to give her activity a rest so he could ask her a few questions.
Get off that boy.
He turned the hose on her mid-coitus? Damn.
Archibald's a jerk. Yeah. Leave her alone. Let her have her fun. Damn. Yeah, because we're in hell just to talk. No, yeah. Loser. Yeah.
Well, she turned to Archibald and said, "Rest? There is no rest in hell," and went back to what she was doing.
Good job,
Archibald. What'd you say?
I said, "Good job, D."
Archibald began to look around and noticed just how terrible of a situation he was in. There were sex acts so vile that even he became disgusted. Just when the dark figure said, "Now's your chance. Pick your pleasure and fucking hell." But Archibald began to cry and begged the cloaked figure to take him back.
I've only had one of those do that. Might have happened once.
We call you Satan's mistress for a reason.
Yeah. You know.
The figure replied, "Very well, but carry on with your reveling, and you shall return to this place in 1 year and a day." The hooded figure led Archibald through the room, stepping over the writhing bodies of the orgy participants. The figure closed the door behind them, and suddenly Archibald was back in front of his body. So he climbed in and sat up in the pile of wet leaves. His body he climbed back onto his coach and drove home. The next day, he thought long and hard about his life and what the infernal specter had told him. So he wrote the letter and formally resigned from the Hell Club. Archibald's friends listened to his story, but when he finished, they all had a good laugh and told him clearly the entire incident was a hallucination. Clearly he had fallen off of his horse, bumped his head, and dreamed the entire thing. Archibald also began to laugh with them and suddenly felt ridiculous. Why should he stop having fun because of some perceived omen? He was one of the most powerful men in town, So Archibald immediately rejoined his friends in the Hell Club and picked right back up where he left off. And things remained that way for about the next year. But then Saturnalia rolled around again. That night, as usual, there was a big debaucherous party. But while the party was happening, Archibald sat in a chair and drank, trying to forget what happened the previous year. His friends kidded him, telling him to watch out while they were doing their best ghost impressions.
That would be us. All
right,
watch out. Ooh.
Here he comes.
His friends are dicks.
Yeah. Others joked with him about how he had cheated fate. But Archibald was so worried, he didn't even participate in the orgy. He just drank himself into a stupor as the party ended and light was breaking. Archibald's friends put him on a horse and sent him home. But Archibald never made it. It was now exactly a year and a day since Archibald had his ghostly encounter. And it seemed that the spirit had made good on his promise, because Archibald's horse was found grazing along the road, and Archibald was found face down on the road, with half of his body in the ditch. Archibald was gone, but now he could live out his fantasy and fuck in hell. So what do you think about that one?
I'd quit going down that damn road.
Okay, wait. So he goes. This black specter blocks the path. He goes to hell. Yeah. He sees this massive orgy. He comes back a year and a day later. He goes to go home and he dies. Cut in half.
No, but half of his body was in the road. Half of his body.
Oh, okay. I took that as like he got cut in half or something. I was wait, what? I'm missing part of the story. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I feel
first of all, go ahead, Blake.
I feel like this one could be pretty explained. See, okay, so
it's very Ebenezer Scrooge-ish, right?
It really is, and again, I don't think this is a spirit that showed up in the Christmas Carol, but unless I'm mistaken or read the wrong version, I think I downloaded that movie one time.
What the hell orgy?
Yeah, the hell orgy, exactly. I don't know. Okay, spectrophilia. The sexual arousal with ghosts. I don't know if that falls under. I don't know if this falls under it necessarily, so to speak. Yeah, he's bold and bolsterous and all that stuff.
No. Place.
Well, I know, but hear me out. And so, like, I know there's the orgy in hell and all that kind of stuff, but I think maybe it does fall under spectrophilia or plasmophilia or whatever you want to call it, because I really think it was a dream. I think the first time he fell off his horse, hit his head, and just had some unconscious dream because he was so freaking drunk that he was, I mean, if you're constantly screaming, I want to fucking hell.
Yeah.
And if you get bugged from your horse gets spooked or whatever, we don't know what happened on his ride home. Bump your head, you go unconscious, you're dreaming. Yeah, you could have a dream of an orgy in hell.
Right.
I like Miss D, though. Damn. We don't rest.
Like, I'm busy, boy.
I'm doing shit.
Yeah, I have a. I'm going to agree with you, Blake, on the fact that I do think that he probably was drunk as a skunk, fell off his horse, hit his head. That's far more believable to me than the devil showing up like some very nefarious fairy godmother going, "Come on, we're going to take you here and show you what's going to go on." Suddenly granting wishes so he can F in hell. I don't think so. I don't think that's how that works. And if it truly was a warning, if it was an omen. He didn't hate it.
No,
and a year and a day, he still had to go back. So I think it was a dream. But I don't know, Archibald.
But remember, the specter told him a year and a day if he didn't change his ways, but it made good on its promise. So, I mean, do you think it was a dream, or do you think he freaked himself out and caused himself to die, or do you think kind of like how you manifesting something,
kind of haunting himself, so to speak, manifesting it to happen, willing it to happen? You said there was a letter. Is there proof of this letter anywhere? Do you know?
I don't know. It's just the story in the book. Okay.
Obviously, that would lend a little bit of credibility to the story if there was the actual handwritten letter that described the whole orgy and hell thing, or even a year to the day. If there was something more concrete about the year and a day
date
thing,
documentation or something,
something like that, I would probably give the story a little bit more credibility,
or even a last name where we could go and look it up.
Yeah, but I think.
There wasn't a last name because a lot of people, in the story, it kind of made the distinction. A lot of people they kind of conflate it with the Hellfire Club that was over in Ireland, and not the Hell Club was something completely different, and it was just the rich people in town getting together. So I don't think that they would leave a paper trail, you know, like it could be conjecture, you know, it could just be people like passing rumors around.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'm gonna have to call false on this one too.
Yeah.
I don't think it actually happened.
Yeah.
Now, if he, I don't know, the year and a day thing makes it a little interesting. That's where I get hung up, because if he actually told people that and people are actually saying that and can corroborate it, that's a little bit of credibility there. And it happens a year and a day afterwards that he dies.
Right.
Maybe he did have an orgy in hell.
Right. And you know, it's from around the same time as like the Christmas Carol too. So it's, you know, it's very, very Christmas Carol-y, very Charles Dickens-y, you know.
Yeah. The foretelling of the future here is if you don't change your ways, this is what awaits you. Yeah.
Blake, what got you?
It's probably something you can't say on the air.
You would think an orgy in hell, everyone would be premature or unable to get off. Or maybe they can't stop getting off and they're always dehydrated.
No, that could be.
Change your ways.
That's the worst thing that can happen. I'm thirsty.
Hold on, wait. My favorite, the one that got me. Change your ways. Let her come first. God damn it.
I'm so thirsty. I
love our commenters.
I'm never gonna make it through this episode. All right. Anyways, my so here's because we gotta give her a ruling on this one. I'm gonna throw this one into the bullshit column.
I'm with you.
There's not enough credibility there, documentation or anything like that. So bullshit for me. Shelley, what say you?
Bullshit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
I don't think
far,
Satan was suddenly the fairy godmother going, "I'm going to grant your wish. Let's go to hell." You got orgy.
We're not denying that spectrophilia or plasmophilia is a thing. I mean, there are people out there who are sexually
We're just
aroused.
saying Ryan grabbed some jacked up stories.
We're just saying that Ryan grabbed the weirdest stories with the weirdest people's names about rectories and orgies in hell.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we're going to continue with our third story.
All right. Now this one
with Archibald Bumstead from the Rectory Hell Club. Jesus.
Now this one is about a ghost that is.
Just tell the story.
The best way I can say it, this ghost is that this ghost may enjoy dressing up in women's clothing. So we'll talk about this one.
Oh.
All right. So
I didn't know ghosts needed clothes, but go on with your story.
We have a cross-dressing ghost. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Rock on. Let's go.
So Graham Donovan was an Irish antique collector that moved to America during World War II. He really had an affinity for Old English artifacts. So as he became a rich man, he brought furniture, art, furniture collections, and even full British buildings over here to the United States. One particular item was a 4-post bed that was thought to have a connection with British Parliament. The story was that several members of the legislature had slept in the bed over the years. So Donovan had to have it and brought it to America. And once it arrived, he liked it so much that he had it placed in one of his bedrooms in his house.
Okay.
And in 1947, Donovan went on a business trip and left his wife at home. His wife was sleeping in the 4-post bed in his absence, and her dog was sleeping in a little bed across the room. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, she was startled awake by the dog's growling. She opened her eyes to see what he was growling at, but she dare not move, because she thought someone may have broken in. But the light coming through the bay window illuminated her room enough that she could see her clothes draped over the back of a nearby chair. But while she was looking in that direction, she noticed movement by the chair. As her eyes adjusted, she could just make out the figure of a skinny man taking off his clothes. But once nude, the man began to put on her clothes. First, he slowly and sensually put on her bra and panties. And then he put on her stockings.
Not slowly and sensually. Sorry.
Slowly and sensually.
Slowly and sensually. The way you have to describe it. Slowly and sensually put on.
Why is there not music going on? I'm like, I'm gonna get out my ones.
Sorry, I did not mean the flow of your story, but slowly and sensually got me.
And then he put on her stockings, rubbing his legs up and down in a sensual fashion. Once he was done, he examined his new wardrobe in the mirror, admiring how he looked in the woman's clothing. The woman lay in bed, not believing what she was seeing. But just as the man was dressed in all of her clothes, he again undressed and put his clothes back on. But this time, the woman was able to get a good look at his threads, which seemed to be a loose fitting and made of embroidered velvet. And he had a feather cap on his head he put on just before walking towards the bed. As he got to the bedside, the woman's heart began to race. But the strange little man just sighed and removed his funny-looking clothes. And once he was done, he got into bed and pulled back the bed sheets and climbed in with her. This proved to be too much for the woman. So she jumped out of bed and flipped the lights on, hoping to confront whoever disturbed her sleep. But when she looked in the bed, no one was there, which utterly confused her. She knew what she had seen. So to make sure she wasn't crazy or dreaming, she went over to where her underwear had been previously and found her unmentionables in a pile on the floor. She had indeed seen an ethereal man wearing her clothes. Her fear now became curiosity, and she hoped that she would see him again. She didn't have to wait long, because her wish was granted. Again, she saw the same sequence of events play out, the very next time she slept in that bed. But instead of being fearful and turning on the light, she lay there to see what his next move was. But much to her surprise, when he climbed into bed, the man disappeared. Wanting to know more about him, the woman continued to sleep in that room, hoping the ghost would communicate with her. But it never did, and would repeat the same actions over and over again whenever she slept in the room. But she wasn't the only person to see him. Several maids would see him while they were cleaning, and if the lady of the house left out any underwear in the room, when the maids would see him in the daylight, he would instantly disappear, and the underwear he was wearing would fall onto the floor. No one could figure out who he was, but based on his style of dress, it was determined that he was a valet from the 17th century. So the woman and the maids began to refer to him as Valentine the valet. And while the woman's husband, Mr. Donovan, never saw him, it was said that Valentine appeared in that room until the bed was destroyed and Valentine disappeared with it.
That's what I tell my husband too. Yeah, my underwear's on the floor because there was a ghost that was wearing it. I don't know how it came off.
I don't know how they got over there.
I was scared.
What do you think about that one? Because that one's pretty interesting because it seems like a residual haunting. But
I'm gonna say a true on that one because you have multiple witnesses.
Yeah, multiple witnesses.
You have a very specific style of dress,
right?
Multiple people seeing them, and the haunting doesn't stop until the thing that they're attached to goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why he got to get his drawers back on to walk across the room to get in the bed, just take his drawers off again, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that I have never seen a full-figured naked ghost before, but hey, come one, come all, let's see it.
I guess that's the only part of it that's like weird to me is like this ghost, like, you know, you hear about, you know, when you die, be careful what you're wearing. That's your ghost outfit for eternity, you know?
Right.
And I have weird random thoughts like that throughout the day. I didn't know ghosts could take them off. Nobody told me that we could change outfit if we wanted to. I have never heard of a ghost.
Maybe he was tired of his clothes.
Well, like, what do you think about that one, though? Because, like I said, that it seems like it's a residual haunting, but the fact that he looks at himself in the mirror and then sighs, you know, and then takes everything off, but he repeats the same actions over and over again and never tries to communicate with anyone. Like,
yeah, but what do you think? I would necessarily call this a residual haunting. I think there has to be some type of intellect behind it because he's interacting with a tangible object in this world. I mean, it's not like I could understand like if his clothes had been laid like in the same place or something like that, but this bed came from overseas, so that can't be the case.
Yeah.
I think that there's got to be a little bit of intelligence behind this because he's interacting with our world. Right. So I don't know if this is necessarily residual, but I find it very interesting because you got multiple people who are witnessing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and plus too, if you think about it, since we don't know exactly what year he's from, if you think about what the males would wear, they were very long coats, looked very much like a lady's shorter dress.
Right.
It could be maybe he didn't realize it was a woman's clothes.
That
Maybe
was
he
the
was
first
just
thing, yeah.
changing clothes because
Well,
maybe he was
remember, he
supposed to. And if
admired
it happened
himself.
at roughly the same time, perhaps that was a time that he would normally go and change for like dinner or change for in the morning or something like that
Right.
for whatever his duties were. And so maybe, I mean, that could be a bit residual, but there's an intelligence that he's following the same pattern. So
Right.
You have a new bucket list item, Shelley.
what?
Find
What's
the
it
naked
say?
find the naked ghost.
I'm on it. Yay. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say because like I know, like changing clothes for duties and stuff, but he did admire himself while he was dressed in the woman's clothing.
Well,
And
again,
then,
and it might not have appeared as women's clothing to him, and of course he would have to look perfect if he was a valet.
but
He would have
the
to look
way that
perfect when we go
he,
out.
well, I'm saying that was the way that he put it on. This, she said he sensually put it on, like he knew what he was doing.
You let him feel good if he wants to.
Well, I'm sure. I'm saying, but I don't know. That one's really interesting to me. That
Sometimes I put on clothes and go, yeah, I like that. And
because
sometimes I'm like, no, take that shit off.
Because, like I said, if like you were saying, like there is some intelligence, but it just repeats the same actions over and over and over again, never acknowledging anyone. It's very interesting to me. It's
I don't know if now this one, I don't know if I would classify it as spectrophilia, just because it's not, to me, in my opinion, like a human being sexually aroused by a ghost really in this story.
Right.
I don't know. Old girl kept staying in there to watch him get naked.
That's true. She may have liked it. I don't know. I'm oh man, I kind of give this one just a hair more credibility though, because you got multiple people who are seeing the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's legit.
I mean,
think it really
giving a brand new like name to drop in panties, like the maid sees them, whoop, there goes the panties.
Valentine the valet, the panty dropper.
The panty dropper. A whole different definition for it.
However, I do think it is a possibility that if her husband came home and was wondering why her underwear was flung across the room, it was a ghost.
It was
I'm scared.
Why did I see a valet go out the window? I don't
It was the ghost. You saw him too? Oh my God. Why not?
She met him at medieval times and just brought him back to the house.
God. Yeah, no, I would I don't know if I 100% believe that this could be factual. I would need a little bit more kind of documentation than eyewitness accounts, but I like this one because it has multiple witnesses in the story. So that gives it just a hair more credibility, but I'm still not going to call bullshit, just shit. That's it. It's just,
Valentine thought he was the shit when he was.
He thought he was the shit. That's why I went with just shit. We're halfway.
I like this one. I'm going to say this one probably happened. It's just a lot of detail, a lot more detail. And I don't know if you read directly or if you paraphrased, but I kind of like the detail in it. The fact that she stayed over and over, which again, that gives her a little credibility because she's in fact investigating. And if this is her story telling it, she's actually investigating to see if it repeats. Yeah, okay, I'll give her that. All right. Yeah, even though she's naughty for looking every time she's naughty for looking. You should have averted your eyes, paper.
All right. Well, I'm with you on that. I think this one's a little bit more credible than the other ones. But this next one is a story about a witch trying to get some in Scotland. So.
Okay.
All right. Now, Robin Green was a very brave man.
Oh my God, a normal name.
A normal name at this one, yes.
Normal name, Robin Green.
Now, Robin Green was a very brave man who fought for the British Armed Forces in World War II. And during his time in the field, he found that he really enjoyed camping. So after the war, he began going on camping trips with his family and sometimes alone deep in the woods of the British Isles. On one of his camping trips in 1953, Green went to Scotland and set up camp in a secluded valley in the Inverness area of the island nation. But soon after he set up camp, he began to feel ill and suffered stomach problems. So he went into town and got medicine from a doctor, who told him to take the medicine and get plenty of rest. So Green decided he would stay a few nights at his campsite and rest until he felt better or good enough to go home. As he was sleeping that night, he was jolted awake when he heard his tent being opened. He sat straight up in his sleeping bag and was utterly surprised when he was face to face with an old woman, staring at him directly through the opening in the tent. She never tried to enter the tent, but she tried to get Green to come out of the tent and join her in sexual congress. But by graphically describing every sexual act she wanted him to do to her. Green wasn't scared by her appearance, but he damn sure wasn't going out of that tent. He thought she may have been some old drunk that lived nearby, and so he told her to go home. She left, and Green went back to sleep, hoping that he didn't run into her again. But for the next 2 nights, she appeared in the same manner and tried to get Green to have sex with her. But by this time, Green had become annoyed and swore if she came back, he was going to call the cops. And just like clockwork, on the 4th night, the old woman returned and tried once more to get Green to have sex. This time, Green feigned interest and tried to talk to her, trying to glean any information he could about who she was. As she spoke to him, she got closer to the tent and stuck her head inside. Green was getting a bit uncomfortable with how close she was getting, so he asked her what her name was. She reacted in a strange manner and began shouting that she was Isabel Govdy of Alderin. Try to say these Scottish words, it's hard.
Isabella Govdy.
Isabel Gowdy of Alderin.
Isabel Gowdy.
Oh. Isabel Gowdy, yes.
Okay.
Green said, "I don't care who you are. If you don't leave me alone, I'm going to call the cops." As soon as she was threatened with the law, the nasty old lady left the tent with the quickness and began to shake the tent as hard as she could. Green had had enough, so he ran outside to confront the old hag. But when he got outside, she was nowhere to be found. However, his tent was still shaking like crazy. It was about this time that Green realized he should get out of there. And he left the tent and... what?
After 3 times this chick's coming to the tent, now it's time to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he left the tent and all of his camping gear behind until he gathered enough courage to go back the next day and retrieve all of his belongings before heading back to England. But Green never forgot his ordeal and often told the story to his friends and his children. Years later, Green's son was working at the post office, and he had a chance encounter with a Scottish workman who was in the post office doing some electrical work. Green's son struck up a conversation with the Scotsman, and during the conversation, alderin came up, and Green's son remembered his dad's story. So he asked the Scotsman had he ever heard of Isabel Gowdy that lived in Alderin. The Scotsman suddenly looked puzzled, as if he were caught off guard by the question, but told Green's son that he had heard of such a woman. Green's son still curious about what he knew about her. Green's son was still curious and asked what he knew about her, and the Scotsman revealed information that was quite disturbing. According to him, Isabel Gowdy was a very well-known witch who was involved in the Scottish witch trials in 1662. But unlike the other witches, Isabel openly discussed her dark activities and didn't need any persuasion. She openly and proudly told her accusers of her willing consort with the devil and of her sexual escapades with her coven. She also told them of bewitching travelers that had stopped to camp in the isolated and secluded glens around the town of Inverness, which was the very same spot that Mr. Green had camped long ago. Perhaps he had actually encountered Isabel, but one thing's for sure: no Greens ever went camping in Scotland ever again. So what do you think about that one? I don't know if you think he would have been privy to Scottish witches maybe at that point?
What, like he knew about them, or?
Do you think like his dad was kind of yanking his chain maybe, or do you think that he actually encountered something?
I think he had to have an excuse of why he was gone so long. I had to rest. I came home because this woman wouldn't leave me alone. Sounds like bragging to me. Get out of here.
She kept trying to get me to bone her.
Yeah. Hey, okay, so number one, I call bullshit on that.
Mm-hmm.
She's tried 3 times. Yeah. Oh, and I turned her down every time. Bullshit. Anyway.
Well, he said she was a wretched old hag covered, just like nasty as hell. So, I mean, he may have.
I'm just going to say it. Some men don't care. Some
have standards. Some don't.
I got an issue with this one.
Okay.
I got an issue with this one just because number one, there's meds involved.
That's one of the things I'm thinking of. Yeah.
We don't know what he was given. Mm-hmm. We don't know what reaction he had to it. If he had an allergy to it, that could have exacerbated some type of reaction or even hallucinogenic state, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can conclusively say whether this one is bullshit or not. I think I would need more from this one because the fact that he leaves his tent supplies there, that's a little interesting because if somebody who is a camper or takes that kind of seriously, they're not just going to leave their stuff behind unless something serious is happening. They're going to take the time to pack it up and take it with them.
Right.
And yes, of course, the son's going to hear about it. And I think all of that's kind of chance with the other guy. And then be like, hey, by the way, do you know about this person? Oh, yeah, I do. She's a witch. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of all. But
I mean,
it leads me back kind of full circle. Where did the dad, the original man who had the experience, get the name from?
That's what I'm saying. Where do you think he pulled the name? Yeah.
I would need more information. Mm-hmm. I don't know, like, what did he do for a living? Did he travel? Was he into like researching type lores and legends and stuff like that? Was he did he have family? Way back then.
Heard the name
well, what I'm saying. Here's something else too. We're not thinking about. He did serve for the British Armed Forces during World War II. Chances are he could have encountered other Scots who told the story of Isabel Gowdy. Right. So maybe that's where he pulled the name.
Or perhaps it was just a little old homeless woman who genuinely just wanted to talk to him. And because he was so scared of her, he thought she was a witch and called her Isabel Gowdy because he'd already heard all the stories. And maybe, first of all, if you're taking meds and going and camping in the woods, okay, we need to chat about a few things right off the bat. Not safe. So I'm going to call a little BS on this one. I'm kind of with the fact that the meds probably played into it.
Everybody else in the comments is calling BS too.
Right. So do you think it was a combination of the meds and maybe it was the homeless woman who needed to get dick down?
I think it was a homeless woman that was just, and you never know. He was on meds. She might have. God love her, poor baby. She might have just needed a snack or something to eat or something to drink.
She needed a snack, all right.
Yeah, and perhaps he misheard. So, and in his, medically induced fit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, she could have been asking for like some spotted dick or something like that at that time.
That is true.
We don't know. Yeah. We don't know. She could have been, and then he could have just misinterpreted it because of the medications. And yes, for those who do not know, spotted dick is actually a food.
It is.
Anyways, an English food. And he was an Englishman, right?
He was an Englishman who went to Scotland,
Yeah, so she could have been asking for that. He could have been misinterpreted because of the medication. I'm going to go ahead and call BS on this. I think that it's a combination of a few things. I think the medication, the tie-in with the son and the other gentleman, that's just because the son heard the story. He's like, oh, you're from there. My father told me the story. Do you know her? Yes, I know her. Yes, she's a witch.
Right.
There's not enough here for me.
Too many unknown factors and where information could have come from.
I think so far the stories you've given us, the only one I'm lending credibility to, a little bit of credibility to so far is the
it's the naked Valentino.
The naked Valentine.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that one.
All right, you said you got one more?
So I got one more story, and this one might be the most outlandish one, but this one I couldn't resist putting
because they haven't been up to now, but let's go for it.
They've been completely believable up to now.
They were outlandish, but this one's pretty outlandish. So
I'm ready.
All right. In 1932, a German writer named Karl Brucker and his wife went on vacation to see the picturesque rolling hills and abandoned castles of Ireland. They were staying near the town of Ruskera.
Why are all the deviant ghosts in Ireland or Scotland? I don't know. Sorry. Go ahead.
And one morning, Brucker set out to see a tower that was close by. It was kind of a misty morning, and Brucker had gotten wet on his journey. But when he reached his destination, he forgot about his soggy condition and began examining the tower. The tower was about 80 feet high, but the entrance was about 15 feet off the ground. The German was fascinated and began to walk around the tower, taking in every bit of the structure he could observe. Once he was satisfied, Brucker walked away from the structure just a little way so he could see the whole thing, while he sat down and ate lunch. But as he was eating, he started to notice movement around the entrance. As he watched, a small figure emerged from the entrance and began to walk down to the ground at a steep angle, almost as if it was walking on a tightrope. Brucker was surprised to see such a thing. At first, he thought the figure was that of a circus performer, but soon came to his senses because there was no circus anywhere near where he was. So his curiosity got the best of him, and he decided to investigate. Brucker got to the base of the tower and didn't see anyone. So he began to walk around the tower, hoping to run into the funny little man he saw emerge from the building. As he walked around, he soon became aware of what he thought was maybe a small boy dodging him around the tower and trying to hide. Brucker became frustrated trying to catch whoever it was. So he gave up and started to walk back to town. But as he walked away, he got about 10 feet from the tower and heard someone walking behind him and giggling. Are you okay? What got you?
Continue. I'm trying not to be disruptive.
No, you're fine. Not wanting to turn around immediately, he decided he would sucker his pursuer in by walking the path just a little further, and when they least expected it, he would turn around and confront them face to face. So that is exactly what Brucker did. But when he turned around, he wasn't prepared for what he saw. He was staring at what he could only describe as a goblin. The little man he was looking at was about 3 feet tall and completely naked except for a brown floppy hat. And he had a large misshapen nose and was covered in warts. But his most prominent feature was a giant penis that almost drugged the ground.
What the fuck, Ryan?
Brucker could not take his eyes off of the enormous dong, and the goblin seemed to be aware. And the goblin seemed to be aware because he began to laugh maniacally and swing his dong around like a quote piece of rope. Brucker at this point decided that he had had enough, and not wanting to take his eyes off of the goblin, began to walk backwards rather quickly. But he tripped over a rock and busted his ass. As he hit the ground, the goblin rushed towards him, and Brucker put his hands up to defend himself, fearing the worst. But instead of being assaulted, he suddenly felt a warm wetness covering his arms and head. The damn goblin was pissing all over him.
Ryan!
Brucker,
Fuck, man!
Brucker was absolutely pissed, no pun intended, and looked up at his attacker as the goblin danced a jig and laughed. But as the goblin laughed, it began to fade to the point where it turned into a gray shadow and drifted back to the tower and floated up to the entrance. Brucker still couldn't believe what had just happened. He smelled his clothes to see if they smelled like pee, but much to his surprise, they did not. He couldn't figure out why not, because by all means they should have. Nonetheless, he got up and dusted himself off and went home, never telling his wife of his golden shower, but writing it down and putting it in his files that were discovered years after he died.
Little naked goblin in a
Oh
floppy
my God,
hat.
Ryan.
A floppy hat swinging his dick around.
What the fuck, Ryan? I'm sorry. I'm calling straight up BS on this.
Wait. Why is it BS? Because see, he never told anybody.
No, he didn't tell his wife.
Down.
He wrote it down.
He was
in his notes.
traumatized.
Yeah. He never told his wife.
I think a floppy-hatted goblin absolutely
with
did
a
tickle on him.
a giant ding dong. Yeah.
Yeah, we know that part. Brian's obsessed with that part of the goblin. Okay.
What's this? They said was his most prominent feature.
Our question was what kind of monster smut is this?
Stop it. Yeah, but you're still listening, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Ryan,
yeah,
you have brought some of the most wackadoo freaking stories to this podcast.
I told you.
Seasons, but that one has got to take fucking cake.
Winner. You made me cry on both times that you've done it. One for bad reasons this time because I can't quit laughing.
I have never gotten out of my chair and wound up on the floor because of a story before. Honestly. I mean, I've seen me and Shelly leave the screen together, but never to that.
I almost fell out of my chair. I was hanging on to the one good arm of my chair, trying not to fall out of the chair.
Okay, wait, y'all think there's some credibility behind this?
I don't know. He never told anybody.
He never told anybody. Yeah.
Now, what I would like to know is, did he have any more stories like this? Was he a creative writer, and maybe he was trying to write a book and put this together, or perhaps he had been told the story, but the fact he never shares it with anybody, because trust me, I meet some floppy-headed goblin out in the woods, and it does some naughty things to me. I'm probably not. I mean, I'd tell y'all, but I didn't tell nobody else.
He even took his wife. I didn't write this part down. He even took his wife back there the next day, but never told her about anything that happened. But when he died, they found it in his notes because from that day, let me
tell you something that lends some credibility for me.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he smells his clothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you don't do unless you genuinely think there's something on you. You know, if you, okay, all right, I'm good. You know, that's a very human thing to do. That's a very unconscious, you know, you just kind of do it unconsciously, you know. That's just, it's a reaction. Details. And that's the kind of detail that makes me go, maybe he did have an encounter with something. You know, that made him go, but he was so ashamed. He's like, I'm just going to write this down. Dear diary, meta. You know,
who's going to believe that a goblin in a floppy hat peed all over me?
Right. I think that the more he had to get it out some way, and he didn't want to sound crazy, but it's like, I've got to write this down. Did this really happen? I'm going to put it on paper, and then I'm just going to throw it over there. I don't know. I'd almost give him some credibility, as ridiculous as it sounds.
Right. And he said goblin. And remember, you know, like you have like a lot of those Irish tales of like sprites or whatever you want to call them running around. So, I mean, that kind of lends, that lends to the folklore of the region. But I don't know. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Like I'm saying, the fact that he never told anybody, never spoke a word of it, wrote it down and put it in his notes. That's a little interesting to me.
Out of all the stories we covered on this podcast, and all the stories around the world, and everything that we know about the paranormal, and all the research that we've done, have you ever heard of an entity peeing on somebody?
I have not. That doesn't mean it's not possible.
I've never heard of one getting naked either, but I'm going to give that one some credibility and hope.
I'm not saying that I 100% believe his story. I do think that the fact he never told anybody is interesting.
Yeah, because he was writing smut at the time. It wasn't cool to do that, especially goblin smut.
It was goblin porn. He was writing goblin porn.
Goblin porn.
It's the name of my new band.
I don't know, man.
Goblin porn's the name of your new band.
Oh yeah.
I would if I'm pressed on this one, I would say no, it didn't happen. But the fact that he never told a soul is interesting to me. I think that's very interesting. But I don't know, man.
I think it was a creative writer that was writing goblin smut at the time. I think
that is a possibility.
Possibility, yeah.
But see, that's why I said I would need a little more information. I would want to know if there were any more stories that they found.
I don't think from him.
Can you say it? Wait, can you say it, Blake? What's the comment say?
I bet he was gobbling these nuts.
Damn it.
I'm sorry. We're professionals. Right. We're bad.
We're pros.
No,
yes, I don't think that it actually happened. I do find the story interesting. I don't know. I don't know. It's a fun story.
I think it absolutely could have happened, but it might not have been a little man he saw. It might have been some little animal that perhaps because he was unfamiliar with the area, he didn't recognize what it was.
Well, that wears a floppy hat and has a giant dick? I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. What animal is that?
There's a Shetland pony painted green.
That's right.
It just had the Leprechaun Festival.
So yeah, I mean, that's the stories that I had. I wanted to do something fun because
Blake had an opinion. Go ahead, Blake.
Oh no, I was gonna say 5 out of 5 stories. I am gonna just classify them all as bullshit. I'm sorry, my friend.
Even the valet one?
Yeah, even the valet one.
I would say the valet one's probably the most credible.
There's a little bit of credibility to that one, but I'm still gonna call bullshit overall. All 5.
I think the goblin porn is 100% authentic. I'm in.
I think don't the valet
shame one is... me, gentlemen.
And kink shaming
don't delete your search history, Shelly. So
make sure
I don't search anything.
Window.
I have Blake do it.
Yeah, that's the reason why my FBI file is so large, because I search everything for Shelly. I'm sure she'll have me look up goblin porn.
Does she have you search goblin porn so you can send goblin porn to her?
I will later.
I am not her dealer.
Yes, she will. Yes, she will.
No, I'm not. I'm not looking up goblin porn.
Yes, she will.
But these were alleged tales of sexual encounters with the other side, and like I said, I wanted to bring something fun to the table because last time was so fucking awful.
This was a good, fun. This was a good, fun episode. But before we close this episode out, you know what we have to do? We have to tell you about real spectrophilia moments that we've experienced. I'm going to start with mine because I said it at the beginning. Ass cuppage.
You did.
Which, if y'all watched this from the get-go, y'all know this story. But I'm going to retell it because, yes, this can actually happen. I'm sorry. Don't get me wrong. I personally was not sexually aroused in this moment. But ghost getting handsy.
Right, sure.
Ghost getting handsy can truly happen. There's 2 instances that are real quick stories that happened to me. Old Park Hotel. I was laying in, if you've been there and you know the area, there's or know the building, there is a room that we call the pink room. It's the very front room that has the 2 bedrooms in there. Or the 2 beds in it. And so I'm laying on the one bed that's up against the wall, the double bed that's in there. And I have my back to the wall. There is no freaking room whatsoever between the mattress and the wall, bed and the wall, whatever, for anybody to walk behind there. I'm laying there. It's the middle of the night. We've all gone to bed. Nobody is investigating anymore. And just right on my ass cheek, this is my ass cheek. I just feel a hand just reach up and just lightly squeeze. And I was like, and I sit up real quick because there was another person that was in the bed with me. And in my head, I was like, this motherfucker better not be, better not in the middle of a haunted location, better not be. And so I sit up, look, everybody in the room snoring. I look around, there's nobody. Just straight on full ass cuppage in the bed. So that was one. My other one, Shelly was present for, Ryan was not. We were at an undisclosed location.
Oh yeah,
up at in a restaurant, and
in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma, it used to be a brothel, right upstairs. If I remember correctly. I'm sitting there doing an Estes method, and I'm about to say a word. I think I say something like "she said hello" or something like that. And on the camera, you just hear me go, "She said hello." Because right at that moment, I sit kind of like when I do an Estes method, I'll sit with my legs kind of open and I'll lean down on my elbows so I can, focus on listening and stuff. Because right at that moment, the inner thigh, centimeters away from a ball, just got pinched and grabbed. I was like, she said hello.
And that's I was like, too, and I was like, what the hell's going on?
I was like, I'm done. I was like, I'm done. Pull me out of here. Something just grabbed my the inner thigh next to my groin. So I have had that happen as well.
Got a little close to your noodle, did it?
Got a little too close. So Shelly, you've had some interesting.
I've had quite a few. I was in Henry's workshop at Old Park and in costume, and I literally felt a hand go from the back of my knee up to my hiney and flip up my dress, and the hand didn't come off my leg all the way up, and I was like, oh, and I came out of that corner. Whenever we were doing the documentary for Scare Network TV over Old Park, we leading these two guys in an Estes method, and they caught on SLS. They were asking me, "Where's your room?" And I'm like, "Well, you know where my room is." And on SLS, they caught something go above my head up through the ceiling in the direction that my room was in. And at one point it drops back down, and Eric goes, "It's doing very nasty things to Shelley right now." Yeah, go watch the documentary, it's on there. And probably of course, Dirty Estes Methods. I was trying to think if there was another one, but actually we do have one that there's pictures with.
Yeah, you did send pictures.
I did send pictures for you, and you guys will remember that whenever this happened, I woke up freaked out and immediately started messaging you guys this. It was the day we were supposed to leave to go to Yorktown, of course, Yorktown. And I wake up, and for whatever reason, I feel strange. I feel weird. I'm flipping out. I was going, "Oh my God." Just how you wake up and like, you feel like something's not right. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to get up. And as I go to get up, I pull the covers off of me, and I have a handprint on my inner thigh, and not just a handprint, indentions, like something's been squeezing the inside of my thigh. And Blake, I sent Blake those pictures. Well, y'all already had the pictures, but I sent them back to Blake. You can actually see that is a little bit too big to be my hand.
Yeah. And you can even see the palm on the body. Like,
and we have another one.
It's huge.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see the indentations of the fingers. That one's a little bit dark, but there's another one. There's a good one where you can see the indentation of the fingers.
I mean, and damn, Shelley, from bottom of the palm to the top of the fingertips.
It's huge.
That goes from behind your knee.
That's the bend in my chuchurama right there at the top.
Chuchurama.
See, my booty's starting. I'm short.
My thing is, like, I'm sitting here doing this to my leg, and I'm not much taller than you. And that takes up that exact same area with my hand. And your hand is a lot smaller than mine.
Yeah, and I think there's one more that you can actually see where the thumb is, because it's a full hand. There's the thumb over. You see the thumb goes all the way up on that left-hand side. And that's you see my knees turn to the side. That's on the side of my thigh. That's like, how big that hand was.
That's like the Kimbe Matumbo size. That's like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was sitting here thinking about how Shelley had to get just to take those fucking pictures.
I had my leg up. I was going, hang on, I gotta get it. I'm like, oh, can't show that part. That's my cha-cha noodle. I'm like, no. I'm like, can't be sending these guys pictures of that.
You got noodles in your cha-cha, so something ain't right. What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't know.
Well, because I mean, at first, like, me and Ryan were like, maybe it was your handprint, and then like when
I sent you the pictures,
when you sent us the picture, we were like, okay, that's pretty big. And then when we got together, we were like, hold on.
Yeah, you were both putting your hands on my thigh, going, "Yeah, there's no way."
and
it was literally for research purposes, damn it.
I mean, my hand, like Shelley, your hand only comes up to about
my hand, it's about like that on yours.
Yeah, to that first knuckle is where your tips come. When I put my hand on Shelley's thigh to like measure that, like, my hand wasn't even big enough to fit the area looking at my hand where it was on her thigh versus...
And Ryan's hand wasn't big enough either. Trying to put it literally inside of the upper part of my thigh, almost to my knee.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like Bigfoot got a hold of me, except Bigfoot got a hold of me. I'm like, what? But I was freaking out. I was freaking out because I actually came there. I drove up that afternoon, and I'm freaking out the whole way. I'm going, I don't know what this is. And you can see the indentations on there. There's another one, but I might not have cropped everything out. I should have, but you can actually see the indentations of the fingers. It's raised.
Yeah.
So yeah, that happened. And like I said, I called them freaking. I'm like, I am sending you pictures. You're not gonna believe it. Oh my god. Yeah, Yorktown. Yeah, Yorktown.
Yeah.
Ryan.
So
you ever been grabbed?
I mean, I've been touched like on my hand and stuff. I've never been like butt cuppage or anything like that.
Well, I also before the other one I was going to throw in that I totally forgot was them trying to crawl on top of me in the morgue cooler at St. Joseph.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a pretty big one. Yeah,
I did have that one where they were trying to basically straddle me, and then found out the next day that that's exactly what they were doing. and were commenting about my body through a psychic medium that was there. Yeah, we were on War Party Paranormal last night. I told that story over there, so y'all can go rewatch that and hear that whole story.
I said the thing that I remember is we were at Old Park and we were doing a EVP session up in the hallway, and Eric actually had his little ghost radio thing, the Clover device, yeah. And we played it. You could hear plainly some woman comes through and goes, "You gonna come fuck me?" Like, and that's about the only thing that's happened.
No, hold on. There's one other one that I actually think is on our YouTube, on our evidence playlist. I believe, I'll have to double check. If not, I'll put it back up there and make sure that it is the first ever Dirty Estes method.
Well, the Dirty Estes method
that Shelly was leading between me and Ryan, and in the middle of it, like I started,
y'all were being naughty.
I started getting all these flirty things. Ryan started getting all these flirty things. We started being real naughty with Shelly, and it's my favorite thing ever because Ryan, it just goes silent, and Ryan's sitting there with his hands on the headphones, and he just goes, "Eat cock."
Yep. Told her to eat cock.
And it was just the funniest thing ever.
But the funniest one is the one that I led Blake in at Hill House Manor in Gainesville.
Oh, that one's on our Patreon.
That one, you have to be a Patreon because I don't think any of that we can legitimately put anywhere that isn't behind a paywall.
No. Yeah, I don't think I can.
And what's even worse is the people were there who they were trying to help Blake getting me in trouble. And I'm going, hey, I don't need y'all's help. Because it was just as sexually explicit as you could possibly be, and hilarious.
Oh, it was so funny. Yeah, and they were telling me so what I was hearing in my ears were things that they were wanting to do to Shelly, things that they wanted Shelly to do to them, payment between the two. It got extremely sexually explicit.
Telling them they wanted to watch.
Yeah. And that is in our on our Patreon in its entirety. Like we haven't edited it. We did not edit it. We didn't cut it, paste nothing. It is out there for the entirety, and it's freaking.
You want to laugh?
I'm telling you, we go to a lot of damn brothels, don't we? I'm thinking about it.
We do.
Yeah.
Those are the most fun.
I mean, we're in the Old West, where the Old West was, and that's all that was all around. So
I'll give my final thoughts on it. I think obviously, Spectrophilia, I think is just a name they've given more or less from the human side to the spiritual world, the sexual arousal, sexual attraction to a ghost. I think that it just boils down to some ghosts can be dirty. Just as you are in life, you are in death. If you were sexually active and aggressive in life, you're going to be the same thing in death, especially if you resided in a brothel or a jail or anything like that. It's not all just disembodied voices and sometimes poltergeist activity. You can get felt up on investigations. We have a few times. So it's always funny as fuck when it happens, though.
Brian, final thoughts?
Yeah, hey, like you said, as you are in life, you are in death. If they can slam a door, they can clap them cheeks. So just be careful when you're in a brothel.
God damn, Ryan.
I know, Ryan just can't help himself. And my final thought is actually, I think that this is fascinating. I really hope some of those stories are true. I'm going to kind of call BS on most of them. But hey, I'm all for a frisky ghost. I like even better if I don't have to see you. So anyway, with that, Blake, why don't you tell them everything they need to know?
Oh my God, we made it through the episode.
All right, y'all. Barely.
Don't forget that After Dark with EVP season 3 is currently streaming now, as well as season 1 and season 2. Do not miss the finale where we went back and returned to face whatever it is that we have been facing for like 4 years at Yorktown Memorial Hospital. It's fascinating what we have found out through evidence. So go make sure you catch that and catch up on season 1 and season 2 as well. You can watch Paraflix Paranormal Plus on Amazon Fire, Roku TV, Apple TV, iOS, and Google Play. For you audio listeners, use that link in our show notes, or everybody can go to our Facebook page Wednesday morning to sign up. Click on our Linktree link, and there you'll find the Paraflix link. Make sure to use our code AFTERDARK25 for 25% off your annual subscription. Also included in that link tree is our Patreon page. Our Patreon is the fastest and easiest way to directly support the show and what we do and all the laughs we love to bring you. For just $5 a month, you will unlock over 400 Patreon exclusive videos where you will not get anywhere else. Your support from that goes directly to the show and helps us keep bringing these weekly episodes to you and our ghostly adventures and evidence as well. That price is never going to change. That is our guarantee to you. With that subscription, you get access to our pre and post broadcast shows, which is the 30 minutes before and the 30 minutes after this live episode. We're in each live episode where we dive even further. I'm sure tonight's post broadcast is about to be stupid because we're a lot more unfiltered over there. So we also that also includes never before seen investigation footage like that dirty Estes method from Hill House Manor. We do offer a 7-day free trial for that, so you can check it all out before committing, but make sure you come over and join us on Patreon and be part of that EVP family over there. Also follow us on all our social media channels that is within that link tree. Just click on the icons at the top, or you can search everything vaguely paranormal if you'd like to do it the hard way on whatever platform you're on and look for that green sound wave. And to you audio listeners, remember you can watch us live and see these beautiful faces on video every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube. We want to thank you all for your support. Every like, comment, share, and download helps to keep these adventures going as well. So make sure you tell your friends and family about us and give us a little share if you don't mind. And remember, if you have a story, comment, or question you'd like to share with us, that can be sent to the evppod@gmail.com. That is THEEVPPOD@gmail.com.
Go like, share, and subscribe to that YouTube channel.
So, for everything vaguely paranormal, I am Ryan Roberts, and these are my partners in the paranormal, Mr. Blake Smith and Miss Shelley Pruitt, and we will see y'all next Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.